She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "That baby isn't yours." I froze. My daughter was 3 weeks old. I had just finished a night shift. And the woman I loved, the woman I had built a whole life with, just told me the baby in the other room wasn't mine. I want you to imagine that feeling for a second. Because by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened next. And trust me, it is not what you're expecting. Stick around. This one's personal. Okay, let me back up. My name doesn't really matter for this story. What matters is what happened to me. So I'm just going to call myself Me, and I'll call her Mia. That's not her real name, but you'll understand why I'm keeping some things private. I met Mia when I was 26. I was working construction during the day and doing deliveries at night, just trying to save up enough money to get out of my mom's basement. I know that sounds rough, but that was my life. I wasn't ashamed of it. I was just tired. Mia worked at a diner near my job site. Every morning, I'd stop in before my shift and get coffee and eggs. She'd always give me an extra pancake. By accident. We both knew it wasn't an accident. We started talking. Then we started dating. And honestly, those first 2 years were some of the best years of my life. You might be wondering, okay, so what went wrong? I'll tell you. Money went wrong. Money always goes wrong first. See, when we moved in together, we thought we had it figured out. I was making decent money in construction, she was picking up extra shifts at the diner, and we found this tiny one-bedroom apartment that we could just barely afford. Then 2 things happened, almost back to back. First, I got hurt on the job. A pallet fell on my leg. Nothing life-threatening, but bad enough that I couldn't work for almost 2 months. No work, no pay. That's how it goes when you're doing manual labor and you don't have some fancy office job with paid leave. Second, Mia found out she was pregnant. Now, I want to be honest with you. We weren't planning this. We were young, broke, and scared. But I remember the night she told me. She was crying and she said, "I don't know how we're going to do this." And I remember grabbing her hands and saying, "We'll figure it out. We always figure it out." I meant that with my whole heart. But here's the thing about hard times. They don't test you once. They test you again. And again. And again. Until you either break, or you become someone stronger than you ever thought you could be. I didn't know which one I was going to become yet. So picture this. I'm sitting at home with my leg in a brace, unable to work. Mia is pregnant, exhausted, still trying to pick up shifts at the diner because we needed every dollar we could get. Our savings, which wasn't much to begin with, disappeared in about 6 weeks. I remember the day our landlord knocked on the door because we were late on rent for the first time ever. I had never been late on anything in my life. I felt like such a failure standing there in that doorway, apologizing, promising I'd have it by Friday. You ever have that feeling where you're doing everything you can, and it still doesn't feel like enough? That was my life for those few months. I started picking up any little job I could do sitting down. I sold some of my tools. I sold my old motorcycle, the one I'd had since I was 19. That thing meant a lot to me, but you know what? A baby coming means more. Mia's family didn't really help. I want to talk about that for a second, because this is where things start getting complicated. Mia's mom never liked me. From day one. She thought Mia could do better. Whatever that means. Maybe she wanted Mia to marry a guy in a suit instead of a guy with grease under his fingernails. I don't know. But she made her feelings pretty clear, even in front of me sometimes. When Mia got pregnant, her mom didn't celebrate. She didn't throw a baby shower talk or ask about names. Instead, she started asking Mia weird questions. "Are you sure it's his?" I found out about that question way later. Mia didn't tell me at the time. But I want you to remember that question, because it's going to come back later in this story, and it's going to hit different. Anyway, Time went on. My leg healed up enough that I could go back to light duty. We were barely scraping by, but we were surviving. Mia's belly kept growing. And despite everything, despite the stress and the fights about money, I was excited. I used to put my hand on her stomach every night and just talk to the baby. Tell her about my day. Tell her I couldn't wait to meet her. I know that sounds soft coming from a guy who swings a hammer for a living. But that's real. That's what it feels like when you're about to become a father. Then, about a month before the due date, Mia's mom came to visit. I remember that visit because it was the first time I saw a difference in how Mia looked at me. Just a small difference. Like something had been planted in her head. I didn't know what her mom said to her that day. I still don't know all of it. But something shifted. Mia started asking me strange things. Where were you last October? Do you remember that guy from your old job, the one who used to text me? I didn't understand what was happening. I kept saying, Mia, what's going on? Why are you asking me this? She'd just shake her head and say, nothing. Forget it. But it wasn't nothing. And deep down, I think I knew that. Our daughter was born on a Tuesday morning. I'm not going to lie to you and pretend that moment wasn't beautiful, because it was. I cut the cord. I held her before Mia did, because Mia was exhausted from 12 hours of labor. I looked at that tiny face and I swear, something in me changed forever. I named her after my grandmother. Mia agreed to it without much of a fight, which honestly should have told me something was off. Normally Mia had opinions about everything. The first 2 weeks at home were hard, like they are for every new parent. No sleep. Constant crying. Both of us running on fumes. But we were doing it together. Or so I thought. Then one night, everything changed. I had just gotten home from a double shift. I was exhausted. My back hurt. My eyes were burning. All I wanted was to hold my daughter for a few minutes before collapsing into bed. I walked into the bedroom, and Mia was sitting on the edge of the bed with the baby monitor in her hand, just staring at the wall. I said, Hey, you okay? She didn't answer right away. Then she looked up at me, and her eyes were red like she'd been crying for hours. She said, We need to talk. Now, if you've ever been in a relationship, you know those 4 words never lead anywhere good. I sat down next to her. My heart was already pounding, even though I had no idea what was coming. And then she said it. I don't think the baby is yours. I want you to understand something. In that moment, my brain just stopped. Like someone hit pause on my whole life. I said, What did you just say? She started crying harder. She said her mom had been telling her that the timing didn't add up. That there was a small window, back before the pregnancy was confirmed, where Mia had reconnected with an old friend from high school. Someone her mom always thought she should have ended up with instead of me. Nothing had happened, Mia swore. But her mom kept pushing the idea into her head. Kept saying, Are you sure? Really sure? Count the weeks again. And after weeks of her mom whispering doubt into her ear, Mia started to believe it herself. I remember standing up. I remember pacing the room. I remember feeling like the floor had opened up underneath me. I said, Mia, I've been here every single day. I've held her every night. I bled for this family. And now you're telling me she might not even be mine? She just kept crying and saying, I don't know anymore. I don't know. I didn't yell. I want you to know that. I didn't break anything. I didn't say anything cruel. I just felt this deep, hollow pain, like someone had reached into my chest and pulled something out. That night, I slept on the couch. Actually, I didn't really sleep at all. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to my daughter cry through the wall, wondering if she was even mine to comfort. You might be wondering how someone moves forward after hearing something like that. Honestly, I didn't know how. The next few weeks were some of the darkest of my whole life. I want to be real with you here, because I think a lot of people go through stuff like this and never talk about it. I started doubting everything. I'd look at my daughter's face, and instead of feeling that overwhelming love, I'd feel this ache of uncertainty. I hated that feeling. I hated myself for feeling it. But I couldn't help it. I stopped talking to Mia the way I used to. We were living in the same apartment, but it felt like living with a stranger. She'd go quiet whenever I walked into the room. I'd go quiet whenever she tried to explain herself again. Her mom, of course, thought she was doing the right thing. She kept telling Mia, "It's better to know the truth now than to raise another man's child for 18 years. I heard her say that once through the phone, and something in me just broke a little more. I started picking up extra shifts again, not because we needed the money as bad this time, but because I didn't want to be home. I didn't want to sit in that apartment and feel like a guest in my own life. I remember one night, sitting in my truck in a parking lot after work, just crying. Not the quiet kind of crying. The kind that shakes your whole body. I hadn't cried like that since I was a kid. I called my best friend, Danny. I told him everything. And he said something that stuck with me. He said, "Man, you need to get that test done. Not for her. Not for her mom. For you. You need to know, one way or another, so you can stop living in this in-between." He was right. So the next day, I brought it up to Mia. I said, "We're doing a DNA test. I need to know." She agreed immediately. I think part of her wanted the answer just as bad as I did, even if she was scared of what it might say. We scheduled it for the following week. And let me tell you, that week felt like a year. I went to work every day like a robot. I'd come home, help with the baby, barely talk, and go to bed early just so the day would end faster. Mia's mom kept calling, kept asking if we'd figured things out yet, like she was excited to be right. I started praying, honestly. I'm not even that religious, but I found myself saying little prayers under my breath. Please, please let her be mine. Because here's the truth nobody tells you about love. You don't choose who you fall for before you know all the pain that comes with it. You just love, and then life tests whether that love is strong enough to survive. The day we went in for the test, I barely said a word the whole car ride. Mia kept looking over at me like she wanted to say something, but every time she opened her mouth, nothing came out. We walked into the clinic together, holding our daughter, looking like any other normal little family. Except we both knew we weren't sure if we even were one. The nurse swabbed the inside of my cheek. Then the baby's. It took less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes to maybe change my entire life. They told us results would take 3 to 5 business days. Those were the longest days of my life. I'm serious. I've broken bones. I've been in debt. I've slept in my car during a rough patch years ago. None of that compared to the waiting. I kept imagining both outcomes. I kept imagining what I'd do if she said the baby wasn't mine. Would I still love her? Would I still want to be her father figure, even if we weren't blood? Or would that news break something in me I could never fix? And then I imagined the other outcome. The one where everything I already felt in my heart was confirmed. Where I could finally breathe again. On the 4th day, my phone rang. It was the clinic. I remember exactly where I was standing. In the kitchen, holding a cup of coffee I never drank because my hands were shaking too much. I put the phone on speaker so Mia could hear too. She came running from the other room, baby in her arms, eyes wide with fear. The woman on the phone said, "We have your results ready. Would you like us to read them to you now, or would you prefer to come in?" I said, "Now. Please. Now." She read the results. Based on the genetic testing, the probability of paternity is 99.999%. The alleged father is confirmed to be the biological father of the child. I didn't even process it at first. I just stood there. Then Mia let out this sound I'll never forget. Somewhere between a laugh and a sob. She grabbed onto me, baby still in her arms, and just held on. I finally let myself cry. Really cry. Not the sad kind this time. The kind of crying that happens when a weight you've been carrying for weeks just falls off your shoulders all at once. I held my daughter and looked into her eyes, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself love her without that shadow of doubt hanging over it. But here's the thing. And I want to be honest about this part, because a lot of these videos skip the hard truth. The test being positive didn't erase everything. It didn't undo the weeks of pain, the sleepless nights, the doubt that had crept into my heart. Mia and I had a lot of healing to do after that. We had a lot of conversations, hard ones, about trust, about her mom's influence, about what boundaries we needed to set going forward. I told her straight up, I understand you were scared. I understand your mom got in your head. But I need you to promise me that from now on, you come to me first. Not your mom. Me. She agreed. And to her credit, she actually meant it. We also had a very serious talk about her mom. I told Mia that her mother couldn't keep having that kind of influence over our family, over our marriage. It wasn't about cutting her off completely. It was about setting a boundary. About protecting what we were building together. That was one of the hardest conversations of my life, watching Mia have to choose between defending her mother and defending her own family. But she chose us. She chose me and our daughter. You know, when I think back on everything, the money struggles, the injury, the pregnancy scare, the doubt about paternity, I realize now that every single one of those moments was testing something in me. Testing my patience. Testing my loyalty. Testing whether I was really built for the hard parts of love, not just the easy parts. I used to think love was about the good days. The laughing, the inside jokes, the lazy Sunday mornings. But I learned that real love, the kind that lasts, is built in the hard moments. It's built when someone tells you something that breaks your heart, and you choose to fight for the truth instead of just walking away. I'm not saying every relationship should survive something like this. Honestly, some shouldn't. If Mia had refused to get the test, or if she had let her mom keep controlling our life after everything, I probably would have walked away. You have to know your own limits. But she didn't. She chose to fight for us too. Today, my daughter is older now, and she has no idea any of this happened. She just knows her dad picks her up from school, teaches her how to ride a bike, and tells her every single night that he loves her more than anything in this world. And every time I look at her face, I don't see doubt anymore. I just see mine. My daughter. My whole heart, walking around outside my body. If you're going through something like this right now, if someone you love has made you question everything you thought you knew, I want you to hear this. Get the truth. Always get the truth. Don't live in that in-between space where fear and doubt eat away at you. Whatever the answer is, you deserve to know it, so you can either heal, or move forward, or walk away with your head held high. And if the truth confirms what your heart already knew, hold on to that. Hold on to the people who chose to fight for you, even when it was hard. So that's my story. The night she told me the baby wasn't mine was one of the darkest nights of my life. But the day that test came back was one of the best. I share this because I know I'm not the only one who's gone through something like this. Maybe you have too. Maybe it's happening to you right now. If it is, I want you to know you're not alone. And whatever you're facing, you're stronger than you think. If this story hit you the way it hit me while I was living it, let me know in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from, and tell me if you've ever had a moment that tested everything you believed about someone you loved. And if you want more real stories like this one, hit subscribe, because there are more coming. Thank you for sitting with me through this one. I'll see you in the next story.